So, first questions first. Let's get into this question before we dig in. Very important. Would you drive from Lagos to Calabar in today's climate in Nigeria? Would you get in your vehicle and drive from Lagos to Calabar on the Lagos Calabar coastal road upon completion? Question number two. Would you let your loved ones, your wife, your kids, your husband, your kids, do you feel confident enough on public interstates in Nigeria to let your loved ones drive from Lagos to Calabar and Calabar to Lagos once this road is completed? You see, it's not so much about just building things. There also has to be adoption and there has to be confidence. For adoption to work, I'm not talking about adopting kids. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about for project adoption, for ideas to really lift off and take off. People have got to use that product. People have got to use that service. That's the only way that adoption works. So if you've ever wondered how interstates are built, you are in the right spot. I'm going to give it to you raw and uncut. You may not like everything I have to say, but I'm only speaking based on my experiences and first-hand information. I've been covering this project now for about a year, a little over a year since it started. I've been covering it. So let's go ahead and talk about this federal spending, guys. So it's a $12 billion project, and it's a relationship between the Chagoury Group and the federal government of Nigeria. Let's just say the Chagoury Group and President Bola Tinubu. It's a bilateral business agreement. So you wonder, Chagoury Group, I've never heard of them before. Of course you haven't. They are a very stealth company. If you've ever heard of a Atlantic City, Chagoury Group owns it. That's the parent company. If you've ever heard of high-tech construction, that's who's on the foreground. High-tech is a subsidiary of Chagoury Group in Lagos, Nigeria. Owned by a Lebanese family. Chagoury Group has been a part of Nigerian infrastructure for many, many decades. During the infamous Abacha regime, Chagoury Group was front and center in helping that regime launder some of Nigeria's money through real estate construction and other business activities. So Chagoury and our beloved federal government are in bed together. They are partners in this Lagos Calabar $12 billion coastline highway project. This beautiful big white elephant. I think Nigeria needs it because not everybody can afford to fly, right? Not everybody can afford to fly. I remember 5 years ago, flying from Lagos to Uyo was 45,000 naira one way. I used to go round trip for less than 100,000 naira round trip. Attempts to fly today now in Nigeria, you're looking at a minimum 600,000 naira. How much is a flight now from Lagos to Uyo on Ibom Air? maybe 200. I'm over exaggerating a little bit. So let's come down. Let's come down. We're a little bit high there. Last year, I paid 190 something to fly first class. I don't know what it is now. I haven't checked. I'm going to Nigeria soon, so I'm going to need to get my flight to Nigeria. So not everybody can afford to fly. The majority of the 230 million Nigerians, hardworking Nigerians, probably say 90% of them don't even have a passport. They probably have never even seen inside of an airplane. I started flying in Nigeria when I was 6 years old. So lucky me. I had worldly parents. I remember I used to fly. 6 years old, Lagos to Calabar. Back then, we didn't have a Kwai State. So last year that I flew was 100 and something thousand. So round trip, well, let's just cap it at 200K. Round trip, you're looking at 200, 400,000 naira today to go coast to coast in Nigeria. So not everybody can afford to fly. And then we also got to, let's not even begin to talk about the Nigerian internal aviation sector. That's another podcast. So people need the road. If you want to ask me, Rich, is that where we should be putting our naira? Of course, I think people need the road. It's needed. Now, do I believe that the federal government of Nigeria should just award a $12 billion contract to Chagoury without even considering other bidders? I don't think that was fair. But in this case, it is what it is. Chagoury has a track record. They are the ones behind the Co-Atlantic. I mean, Bar Beach, the same Bar Beach that I grew up. I grew up going to Bar Beach as a kid. There's no more Bar Beach. The Co-Atlantic City in Lagos sits where Bar Beach used to be. The company that owns that place is Chagoury. The Tinubu family, they have a relationship with Chagoury because Tinubu's son, Sheyi, sits on the board, is a board member of a subsidiary of Chagoury, if not a direct board member of Chagoury Group. That's true. So $12 billion contract. You wonder who's paying for it? Like who pays what? Because it's a partnership. When you're talking about a partnership, you're talking about both parties have to have skin in the game. This one has to bring money, that one has to bring money. That's usually how a partnership works. A bilateral partnership, meaning there's nobody else. It's Chagoury and the federal government of Nigeria. So, who owns the interstate? As of right now, the federal government of Nigeria is the owner, but it may change. And I'll break it down to you why it may change. Because this, from what I'm seeing, might end up becoming another Dangote versus NNPC. Remember the Dangote refinery, the $20 billion Dangote refinery? It was a partnership between Dangote and NNPC. Dangote funded 89% and NNPC took 11%. But they defaulted on that partnership. And Dangote bought some of their shares. So they went from 11% ownership. I think NNPC right now is down to about 5 or 6% ownership of the Dangote refinery. So, Rich, how does this relate to the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway now? Rich, tell us. It's the same kind of partnership. You see, the Nigerian government doesn't have the money. You're looking at $23 billion in reserves. Some people might argue it's double, but really, how much do we have in the coffers, in the bank? Nigeria, like $23 billion. That's peanuts. In an existential situation where Nigeria's survivability depends on it, Nigeria will not be able to bail us out the way the US government bailed out US corporations Remember during the 2008, what do you call it? Bailout in 2008. So the Nigerian government, $23 billion Federal Reserve is all we have. So there's two ways we can finance things, guys. Because only about 19% of Nigerians truly pay taxes now. So how does Nigerian government finance things? They want to build a road or they want to build an interstate. There's only two ways. We either borrow. We are a specialist at that now. We borrow. So that's way one. We either borrow from China, we owe the world $46 billion. Nigeria currently owes China about $8 billion. So we owe the world. If we want to do anything, effect any project, build roads, we got to borrow. If we don't do that, option number two is we dip into the Federal Reserves and then use that $23 billion that we have. Or, in the case of this Chagoury group, because guys, we need that road, or we partner with a company. That is what Nigeria is doing right now. See, guys, I give you. Walk with me here. Follow me. See, we are talking about how Nigeria is going to pay this. I'm going to get there now. Came in for a show. I'm going to give you a show. So, Nigeria look to the left, they look to the right. Who can we partner with to build this road? Chagoury Group. After all, they have a good, close relationship with the Tinubu family. Nothing against President Tinubu. I like him a lot. He's making me rich. His reforms, pro-diaspora. So Tinubu and I, from his reforms alone, we are cool. Nothing against him. I think he's actually one of the better presidents to lead this country. It's going to be tough for him. Somebody's got to do the job. I don't even know why anybody in their right mind would want to be the president of Nigeria. I don't know. There's no really, what's the upside there, really? Maybe this is one of them. So the Chagoury Group and Tinubu sat in a boardroom to discuss the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. How are we going to pay for it? How is this going to be financed? So the agreement was that the Nigerian government will let, interstate belongs to the government of Nigeria. So we own the road, but we are going to let you, Chagoury, if you are brave enough. Have you guys ever seen that movie yet? That Tom Cruise movie? Should you choose to accept? What is it? What is it called? Not Top Gun. Mission Impossible. Should you choose to accept this project, this big white elephant, this 700 plus kilometer interstate, starting from Amadu Bello all the way down to Calabar in Cross River State, should you choose to accept this project, Chagoury, you're just going to have to cough up part of the money. Not just part of the money. You're going to have to cough up 75%. No one truly knows the percentage, but Chagoury is doing the heavy lifting. You guys following this story? So Nigeria agreed. President Tinubu agreed. Chagoury said, you know what? That's fine. That's what we have to do. So Nigeria said, okay, you guys do the heavy lifting. So let's just put a number. Let's just say it's a 60-40 partnership or a 70-30 partnership, meaning Chagoury finances 70% of the $12 billion project, and Nigeria only finances 30%. So Nigeria has to come up with 3.7 billion dollars in cold hard cash. That is Nigeria's portion, right? And then Chagoury has to raise the rest. What we're looking at about $7.38 billion. That's the partnership. And they are going to have to deliver this project to the Nigerian people by the end of Tinubu's term. That is, if he wins the election. We all know that the road is important. Like I said, my only worry, how is the Chagoury group and how is the Nigerian government going to recoup $12 billion in interstate expenditures in a country that only 19% of the population pay taxes? Do you think the market women selling akara at Ijesha market, do you think they pay taxes? Do you think the roadside person selling boli or the local supermarket, do you think those guys pay taxes? When was the last time you paid taxes in Nigeria? Me. When I enter Nigeria and I see that person out there selling corn and coconut, it's 10 naira. That's what I pay. The United States is different. It's a different system that's built on taxes. You pay county tax, you pay state tax, you pay sales tax, you pay federal tax. How do you think roads are built? In an industrialized world, in an industrialized country. US is not even an industrialized country. US is advanced industrialization. Nigeria is just one step above agrarian industry, agricultural industry, and then you have that industry, and then you have developing industry. No, you have underdeveloped, then you have developing, then you have developed, then you have advanced developed. Where do you think Nigeria fits in all that?